And we are live, top of the morning to all the kings and queens that is joining us this morning. Quick little reminder, it is Saturday morning. It is Put the Guns Down. We outside, no different than any other Saturday morning. As always, we have a special guest who is involved in the movement of Put the Guns Down. And today's special guest is Melvin Farmer, and we are going to definitely introduce him here in a quick little second. But just as a reminder, we are out here to have authentic and unscripted conversation. Today's and every Saturday morning's conversation is surrounded around the conversation of addressing gun violence and the underlying issue of mental health awareness. So if y'all are not familiar with Put the Guns Down, World Epidemic, it is a film and documentary that was brought to us by Terry C. Carney Sr., with a lot of people, with Melvin Farmer being one of those individuals being involved. It is chapter 1 of what's to be 12 different chapters coming our way. So please, if you're about saving people's lives, if you're against gun violence, because again, we are not against guns, we are against gun violence is what we're talking about, and that underlying mental health awareness issue that comes with that, and so many different things, and other issues and problems in the world. But with that said, our special guest this morning, Melvin Farmer, who is a very, very notable figure, original founding member of the 8 Trade Gangsta Crips, which is a notorious street gang that originated out of Los Angeles in the late 1960s. Farmer's life story is complex and it's marked by both violence and redemption. And we're talking about that today. He grew up in South Central Los Angeles, where he faced numerous challenges, including poverty and racism. He became involved with the Crips at a young age, initially as a way to protect himself in his community from rival gangs, which sadly is how a lot of this starts, ladies and gentlemen. So with that said, Melvin, we're going to turn the microphone over to you, sir. Let you introduce yourself in your own words, and then we're literally just going to have an authentic conversation, King.
All right. My name Melvin Farmer, former incarcerated inmate, juvenile delinquent gang member, 30-some years, 37 years in prison. After I was the first to ever be released up under the California Three Strikes Law in 1998 on reversal, I changed my life because a lot of men that were lifers there unjustly for non-violent, non-serious offenses. But our other co-host, she know how it is on a level 4 yard. Nobody go home. And I was the first ever to get out, and I had a promise to keep, which is a chapter in my book, The New Slave Ship, I wrote in 1998 to bring awareness to mass incarceration that was starting with this new industrial complex called the Prison Industrial Complex. But anyway, Kelsey Thomas, East Coast 190, a partner of mine since we were 13, been in jail over 40-some years. But back then, he's still there today. He shouted out and asked me, don't forget about him and those there. And I'm still there toward getting him out. From there, I went to civil rights, Amadou Diallo in New York, Prince Jones, Howard University student, Death Row 10 in Chicago helped get the moratorium. Washington, D.C., Million Man March with Coretta Scott King, Dorothy Hyatt, Taisha Miller, Riverside murder, Margaret Laverne Mitchell, homeless lady killed over the shopping cart, Sharice Iverson girl killed in the hotel in Vegas. So I've done all type of things to give back to the community. And one of the projects we have now, it's called Put the Guns Down, a World Epidemic, which I'm a director in community relations with this, but we started this 6 years ago to see what we could do to give back to these marginalized communities that are adversely affected by gun violence as well as mental health. And not just adverse communities, we're talking from Columbine halls to Senate walls to elementary schools in the streets. So it's not just about gang violence. We're talking about gun violence as a whole. For instance, why is it you can shoot a human being with a automatic weapon, but we have laws to protect the dog? So that brings the question: who got more rights in America? black man or an animal. When I see black men get killed by police, they could have subdued him and shot him with a taser, a net, but they killed him like Margaret Laverne Mitchell, the homeless lady in 2010 when we was on the Margaret Laverne Justice for Margaret Laverne Coalition. And then you'll see a wild animal running around that's killing other species, human beings, and they don't kill the animal, they tranquilize. So
Right.
what we're doing, and it is very important because of the authenticity of it, where we're dealing with mental health from all aspects, the victim, the suspect, and the witness, which is rarely done. For instance, I was sitting in court with Lil Durk when I went to trial the other day, and we talking to the Rolling Stone magazine. And I walked away because everybody talking about Lil Durk, but they not in the courtroom to see that other girl sitting over there by herself with the police that was a victim. Now, to be a fair arbitrator, I got to look at her side of the story too, because I'm a fair believer. You do the crime, you do the time. But in today's time, that doesn't exist. So it's an uphill challenge dealing with social media, which we're gonna attack because of the depiction of us as blacks is not the overall picture of us as a race. And we have to stand 10 toes down. And that's what we're doing here on this documentary, toes down. We outside.
Speak. Speak.
Absolutely. Dooney, you have some similar experiences in general. So, from your perspective, I'm very curious when you hear the King Melvin Farmer speak on his experiences, and very similar to you, going from your story of origination to that of redemption and what you're doing in the communities now and the things that you've experienced. What are your thoughts from your perspective, my brother, when you hear another king speaking on the same things that you've lived and experienced in your life, and now you are trying to help the young kings and queens of the world avoid the same paths that you both respectively took to get to where you are today?
Well, I'm a baby in this just 7 years home, not free, right? So uh I'm soaking up what Melvin putting down, man. What he putting out there. I really need to sit down and have a conversation with him because I'm trying to do the same thing in my community. And if it's already being done, we don't have to reinvent the wheel, bro. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. I'm not one of them to believe that. Whatever he's doing, we're gonna get together and we're gonna find out how we can implement it out here in Sacramento, man, to change our community, man, because we dying senselessly, right? And needlessly, right? Because, most of the time a cat can't deal with his feelings or his emotions. And so he acts that out with a gun, right? They don't do a lot of thinking, right? So we gotta get back to teaching our people how to think, man, because they're not thinking. And they
Man,
think it's a fairy tale, like fairy tale town to go to prison. Yeah, they they're not really being told the truth about what that looks like. You know what I mean?
man, it's so
So if
true. Um, Melvin, obviously, with what you got into at a young age, involved in a lot of different robberies, homicides, a lot of things that you were describing in your own words in your intro. Uh, my curiosity is, what was that point of kind of turning for you? What was it? Something that just happened one day, spur of the moment type of deal? Was it something that in your experience in the monastery, as my brother Dooney puts it? That just little by little kind of started your road to redemption. What was that experience like for you when the light bulb ultimately went off? Like, yo, man, what the fuck am I doing? I gotta do something better to be the conduit as an elder and somebody who's experienced these things that we're talking about today, to make sure that the kings and queens, especially the young ones, don't go that same route.
Well, honestly, believe it or not, the Crips, when they first started, were at the max, stretching it, 13 youngest active, 18 years to 19 the max. But you can take the 18-year-olds out the equation. This took in them. If you look at anybody 18 after 1972, at the beginning, none of them went to jail because they wouldn't have lasted a day. We as juveniles, they hadn't invented the juvenile fitness here. In fact, it was predicated on the acts of the juveniles, browns and blacks in California that affected the nation now. But contrary to what people think, you see these guys 40, 50, 60 years old talking about they gang banging. They probably wasn't gang banging at 14, 15, 16, 17. Because usually what happened and what did happen, once we went to prison to where every race trying to kill you because you're black, your perspective changed. So by the time we were 18, all us in the original ones, our mindset wasn't on coming back. We just went on up into starting in the 80s, the drug game come out. Now we're going more into organized because we were always organized as opposed. You got unity and uniformity. Right now, when you see gang members, rappers, actors, entertainers, athletes, why all of them got to claim some type of affiliation with something street and then dress and mimic the uniformity. When we started, we were unity in the community. We didn't know what we were doing. We didn't think nothing would be 50 years later where other people are soaking up money off the blood and the sweat that me and this man paid our dues. We paid our dues. Because when you break the law, you pay your taxes by going to jail because you ain't paying your taxes on the shit you get. So by 18 or 19, we done moved up from gang banging to a more violent gang where it's death to the high roller, the drug dealers. The first gang intervention ended up in a murder with Rosie Greer. That was the first gang intervention in 1976. But one thing about this city, there is no retirement because you have guys that do drive-bys and everything else. So when you walk in the streets in Los Angeles, I ain't out here with no negative attitude. I come out my doorstep where I have an expectation of privacy inside, but that advantage is watch out, come outside. And what the FBI will tell you is you can run into a negative noid. And that's what happens. I cross paths or you cross paths. So you always have to defend yourself. You know, they say, Melvin, you did this. No, well, really, they don't. They assume it because I've never been arrested for no black on black violent crime. I'm on parole for 3 counts of attempted murder on the police as we speak from Georgia because they violated my rights. And so at the end of the day, I've been changed my mind really since about 18 and 19 as far as actively gang banging or whatever. And most of us, I can say the original ones, none of us are dead. We didn't say rest in peace. We say rest in pain. If it come to that, we don't like to, and people don't know the position we're in to where I'm from A-Trade gangster, but I know everybody in this city. And we could fool around where your son don't shout at me or vice versa. And we don't kill your son and kissing the mother at the funeral. They don't understand that. Or when you put a picture up of your associates where they've done the murder, but you standing next to them, oh, guilt by association. Y'all don't get calls when Nipsey Hussle got killed. Hey, Melvin, we got to do something to make sure they don't think it. Or when the 100 Days, 100 Nights and Karen Bass called me. But you got to in the business. These are the things that you don't hear. You know why? Because it's grassroots. A lot of people play both sides of the fence in this game. You can't do that. And I'm not messing with you. That's why I'm a credible messenger. We stand tall for what we stand for. Been there, done that. I want to make my mother proud. Now, I almost killed my daddy for hitting. And that's one thing I want to speak on, and this brother can feel this from the heart. As you get older, You're only thinking you're hurting yourself. You hurt your mama. You drag your mama through the mud for some Negro or whatever, some shit you don't even own, and 99% of you never been there. And I hope you don't. Not with the attitudes you gang goofy niggas got out there, Negroes.
Mm-hmm.
It's really sad, man, where we have to fight amongst each other, where you have to, for sound bites and likes, to get paid on the internet talking about uh, fighting in the county jail, LA County Jail, where you got John Wayne, Elvis Presley as murals. And in fact, I wrote a suit to police back, me, Christopher Darden, and another federal attorney, where we sued the LAPD. You can Google that, for not protecting blacks when three of them got killed by the Mexican mafia with the help of the ABs and police. Y'all don't talk
Mm-hmm.
about it. So I would just, yeah, I'm proud that y'all bringing awareness, allowing other people's voices uh, uh, to be heard. Because just because you're out of sight, don't mean you're out of ground. When your boots to the ground, when the camera's not around, it's a grassroots thing, man. So I'm
Right.
really comfortable with this show. And I hope people take what we say in earnest, because we've been there, done that, and we want the youth to become taxpayers, not tax burden. I didn't get my first job till 65. And then I went, and a lady on the show said, Melvin, you're pretty smart. I think you could be a tax preparer. And she said, I'm going to talk to the government. I'm the only one in the United States still on parole that worked for the United States government as a tax preparer
Mm-hmm.
in the world, in the United States.
Yeah, and
So
this
it's not
Right.
too there.
That's
So
right.
if we can change, and my man here can change, and we coming back to give back, because we don't want you to go down that road. Who better to listen to somebody that been down this road, that can see the traps? We can tell you what to look for, because if you think gang banging and crime is your answer, I'm sorry. You're riding a dead horse down a dark canyon. Let's look at Tookie, killed by the state.
Mm.
Let's look at Raymond Washington, killed in the streets. Those are your options at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, young
Mm-hmm.
men, women, and children.
No, it's crazy there. One thing that very much stood out to me was the fact that you said you got your first job at 65, which is when most people are retiring, right? That's retirement age. You got your first real job in that respect as well. You obviously been part of the, put the guns down movement as well, which right now is that grassroots effort, right? And I appreciate you again taking this time. I know Dooney does as well, because these are important and necessary conversations that have to be had. And I want to share something with everybody watching out here, right? Because when we talk about these grassroots efforts, especially if you look at it from the Dooney, no different than we were talking with Stefan last week, right? Things being a brand or a business, which this is not, right? But I'm saying that to put it into context. Brands, businesses, they normally do what? They put marketing dollars behind something, right, to make it really push, as we're doing with Put the Guns Down movement. But again, one thing that I learned this week that I was not aware of previously was I had the blessing of being on a conversation with rapper and activist D1 and a bunch of other rappers earlier in this week. So shout out to them. Shout out to D1. And he shared something new with me, because I look to learn something new every day. The 3.5% rule, right? And if y'all are not familiar out there with the 3.5% rule, we're about to put you on some game right now. That simply means, and this is a scientific study, that studies show in multiple countries, including our own, if you have 3.5% of the population that has a certain belief, and right now we're talking about the belief of being against gun violence. Again, I always want to make sure that we say this: against gun violence, not against guns, and making sure that we're addressing the mental health awareness, which is the underlying issue of that and so many different things. 3.5% of the population that has that same belief, and you start pushing it, whatever it is that you're pushing, it's going to happen. So I think, it's important to realize that grassroots efforts, like Melvin was talking about earlier, if you stand on your 10 toes with that and you keep on pushing it, it's gonna go somewhere. It's gonna go somewhere. And I think that's something that we need to collectively do, which is why we have these conversations every single Saturday morning, and we will continue to have them every single Saturday morning for as long as the internet is alive. So I'm curious to see what your both the thoughts are on the grassroots efforts with respect to that 3.5% rule, and what your thoughts on being able to push that forward. Dooney, I'm gonna start with you respectfully first, and then definitely Melvin. We certainly want your thoughts on that as well, bro.
Well, man, I mean, we are a country of followers, right? What are people doing right now? They're following something. They're following somebody. They're following what someone has laid before them, right? And it's no different than this movement right here, right? We need to put this before them, right? We need to advocate for this, right? For change, and people will change. I don't think I just can't believe that our people want to continue to murder each other. I think they're caught up in a vicious cycle, and don't know how to get, you know, off that wheel, right? So to speak. So it just keeps turning. And I believe this movement, right? And brothers, right? Stepping up, bro, and telling our brothers the real, and waking them up, bro, is what's needed for this change. And it's one man at a time. They want to follow something. We just got to give them something greater to follow, bro.
Man,
I know I was one of them kids. I wanted a way out, but I didn't get no way out. So I just stayed hard, right? Nobody didn't say, man, come on, homie, you ain't got to do all that, bro. You ain't. I just went all the way with it, right? All the way till I went to prison, right?
because that's what you
So,
knew, right? That's what you were
yeah.
conditioned to know.
But the thing is, too, I wanted someone to stop. And it's no different with our young life, but it's how we help them stop.
Nah, absolutely. Melvin, I'm curious to what your thoughts on the grassroots efforts that you were starting to talk about, and then even an additional question to that. What do you feel is an opportunity where we can take the message from the grassroots level and bring it up to a grander scale with the resources that we currently have available to us right now? Not sure if we might have lost him there for a quick second. Melvin, you still there with us? All right, we'll wait for his audio to come back because we can't hear you, Melvin. Well, we're waiting to get his audio back. Now, I'm with you, Dooney. Like, I think it's just an opportunity to make sure that we stand behind the message, especially this very important and necessary message of putting the guns down and mental health awareness, right? And we got to keep on pushing the mantle, right? It's no different than if you look back to the civil rights movement. And I was privileged and blessed enough in my life. I had the opportunity to meet Rosa Parks. I was in fourth or fifth grade. She was the great. If I'm doing this correct, she was the great aunt of one of my classmates at the time, Jonathan Newton. I rode the bus with Jonathan Newton in seventh and eighth grade, and just getting to meet somebody like that had the strength to overcome adversity such as that. That's what I think of when I think of like the 3.5% rule and how we can, bring it to the forefront of today in this specific message of gun violence and mental health awareness, right? Because we know, sadly, and we've talked about it on this platform and in these conversations that we've had, sadly, violence makes money. War brings money. People that are not having mental health awareness addressed brings money, right? And sadly, people don't want to invest in something that may not bring the right return on investment. But like people, like how do we even put a number? Why are we even talking about a return on investment in the form of dollars when we're talking about addressing gun violence and fixing the mental health awareness needs that we need to be addressing and fixing in this country? Like that shouldn't even be a conversation. So, Dooney, what are your thoughts on that, bro? Because it's crazy. It's crazy to even have to say that shit. Like we're talking about human people's lives. Like, come on.
I think all of that is just a part of the smoke screen that's being like utilized to get us to not focus on what's really happening right now, bro. Bro, look what they're doing to the Hispanics, bro. If they can do that to them, they can do that to us. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
Right now, our people are asleep. But what they doing to the Hispanics, they can do to us people of color too. And gun violence, let's talk about, I don't want to unarm my people. I want them to arm themselves for our safety, right? There are militias, there are folks, white folks that's out training, right? They have training camps, bro.
Not only that, but I
History
don't know if
is
you've seen it.
starting
In
to
addition to what you're saying about the training
itself,
camps, real
bro.
quick, like there's cities or towns popping up where it's like all white towns. Like what are we doing? We're literally going backwards. And like if we don't combat it in the healthy, constructive way,
And we're killing ourselves. Our people are not even aware of what's happening outside their city block, bro. They're rounding Mexicans up, Hispanics up, right? By troops of thousands, bro. You're bringing troops of 1,000 men to round up Hispanics, bro. That's history repeating itself, bro. And we sleep worried about all the things that really don't mean shit. It's a smoke screen, bro.
yep.
From us waking up and realizing that we need to come together as a people. I don't think, like I said, I don't think we need to get rid of our arms. I think we need to start training on how to use them and direct ourselves on who we use them with instead of on ourselves, because we are not the enemy and we can't afford to be knocking our numbers down because their numbers are increasing, bro.
No.
We're not
Yeah.
ready for it, bro. We need to
No.
wake up, bro.
No, you're absolutely right. Melvin, jump back on. Melvin, can you hear us? Yeah, because we can't. Yeah, we lost him again. So we'll keep on going. I know he's coming back. We're just having issues with his audio on his end. But you're right, bro, and it's crazy because we talk about the 1%, right? The 1%ers, you know, that gets thrown out a lot. You're right. It's an agenda, and you and I have talked about it. We've talked about it on this platform. We've had one-on-one conversations about this. Like at the end of the day, you know, that same 1%, you know, no different than what you're talking about there as far as the agenda that these individuals have. You know, it's systematic. It's systematic, and we have to do it in a healthy manner to combat it, right? Let's check in with Melvin real quick, see if Melvin can hear. Can you hear us, Melvin? You want to give us an audio check?
Yeah.
All right, bet it up. So welcome back to the conversation. So what we were talking about there is really just kind of like how it seems, you know, Dooney was bringing up, you know, with respect to what ICE is doing and this country's doing right now, rounding up, you know, a lot of different people, and really nobody outside of that 1%, right, is really, you know, because you even look at it, you know, it's the poor as a whole, it's black people, it's brown people, it's a whole lot of people. So yeah, I'm curious to what your thoughts are, to jump off of what Dooney was talking about, as far as how, because Dooney made a very good point, and again, we're not against gun people, we're against gun violence, but we have to do it in a safe and healthy manner. As far as making sure that we can address and combat the let's just call it this, the fucked upness going on in this world, with things that are happening literally right between our eyes, almost going backwards, in time at this point. How can we collectively do it in a constructive, healthy, and safe manner without it just being a cyclical cycle? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, let's start with the 3.5.
Yeah, let's go for it. Let's go for it.
Nothing. Our whole internet froze, so that's why I froze out. So I remembered it was 3.5, if I'm not mistaken. And those numbers are really significant when they matter. When you're talking about this problem, you have, when it's come to white folks or white people or other races, when it comes to gun control, they talk about gun laws. Republicans, Democrats, and others talk about gun control and excuses, and they make gun laws. Like when I was looking at these black, and the difference between a black murder, and this go towards the propaganda on social media. And this ain't social media, this is the industry, period. And I look at the titles of when a black killed, 48 hours, murder, she wrote. Then I look at the whites, buried in the snow, buried in a backyard, buried in a desert. I almost got away with it. And other things. And it's almost like watching a Hallmark Christmas special. Soft light cameras, and they depict their murders different. And one thing I thought of, I say, we'll bury the bodies, because all of them do. Look at it. On oxygen, they bury the body. Then they make a deal so they don't get the death penalty, and tell them, I'll tell you where the body is and that. But with the 3.5, when you're dealing with violence in the inner cities, those numbers become very big, because there's a small number that actually participate in the activity. So if you could get that 3.5 out of 100 people that are gang members and gang bangers, that's a big difference. You got 99% of the people are really nonviolent, and they use the gang member or the label or the tagging for propaganda purposes, by labeling everything a black dude gang orientated or something else. But when you read about another murder, when they do it, they won't report that a black did it. They'll say suspect unknown. So these are little tricks of the trade. So if you can get that 3.5, which is probably less than 1%, when it comes to this issue as a grassroots in these marginalized communities, Chicago, New York, Atlanta, which is all Democratic controlled cities, but Republican states, a lot of them. So it's good and bad. So on that, I think those numbers are accurate when it comes to that. Now, what was the second part of the question?
Yeah, how do you feel with it being a grassroots effort? Because that's really what it is when we're talking about gun violence, put the guns down, a world epidemic. How do you feel, or what maybe do you feel is a solution of how we can take it with the resources that we do have available to us collectively, and take it from a grassroots effort, and with that 3.5% and grow that?
Yeah, let me tell you a little bit about and it'll tie in with this. So, because how the industry was again, because we're going to stay attacking them.
Mm-hmm.
I am, because of the fact this movie started off and very few know it. And those that know it are the ones that created it. This movie was called Put the Guns Down, a World Epidemic. See how different that is? But then, like I say, this started 6 years ago. Terry Carney been metal to the pedal for 6 years. And COVID came, which cost us 3 years. And then 6 years later, we got the vaccine. And then 6 years later, we got the And then a lot of guys passed. We got a lot of history dealing with this issue. Now, you got Big U that was getting funding up to the tune of $650,000 yearly up under 501(c) intervention prevention. But he was misappropriating the funds. And it's not just him, because if you did Digger with the 5 questions of journalism, 5 W's, who, what, when, where, and why, the next question is who kept repeatedly giving the funding? Oh, the local elected official. So you can also use that 3.5%, because you got 271 million registered white voters, 10 states that are 90% black, 38 million Mexican voters, 36 million black voters, and 34 million registered others. By next year, the blacks will be last. So why not use your vote? Because it really doesn't matter in an election of a national magnitude, because if 49-51 is a majority in the Senate, and then at the Rayburn building, which is Congress, for those that don't know, I stayed in DC and spoke at the Congress every day for C-SPAN. Then you use your votes to where, once again, we not only want these youth to go from taxpayers to tax burdens, but we got a plan, not a promise. We also want them to vote those best interests at stake. And that's the problem. When a white person, like in Beverly Hills, where the hobos wear suits, let them don't get what they want. That elected official is recalled. We sit around here and practice nepotism, where we let the same ones over and over and over. How can you expect change when you got the same cycle as you do in violence in the political world? So we really are all in the same game. So why not come together and bring and turn your guns in for, say, a screw? I never used one. What they call them? A nail gun. Why you got to use the pistol? Turn it in. We need to bring trades back to the schools where you learned how to carpentry. Women learn adequacies and stuff like this. And right now, you know, you see these depictions of these rappers looking like homeless hoes and penniless pimps. That ain't the depiction I want my daughter to see, nor will I allow her to see that. So there's a lot of things, but when it comes to inner city, I think our vote matters. I think who we have in the elected official, and that money go to those that are got their boots to the ground, that aren't getting the funding or the support, just like this movie. Now, why is it this movie, Put the Guns Down, a World Epidemic, where we won 53 awards on 7 continents at every film festival, all white or others, but we never had a black film festival that would accept our video? Or why isn't it the Sentinel newspaper, one of the biggest black syndicated, and I'm calling them out because a lot of them
go for it. It's your show. Your show. You say what you want, how you want to say it.
Intervention work, but it creates a conflict of interest because we're doing the work that they can't do with the money, and we doing it without the money. See how they go? So you got planners and you got plotters. Michael Conception, who owned Grand Jury Records when we all in the same game. So I'm not new to this game. I've been in hip hop since it started with Eazy-E. When we all in the same game, nothing but self-destruction, Boogie Down Production, KRS-One. We also had MC Hammer on there, Tone Loc, Young MC, Dr. Dre, DOC, Michelet before she was anything Dre made the beat. So I'm not new to hip hop, none of that. And Dirty Rotten Scandals. Then we had so many King T. Then we was with Teddy Riley. Then Russell Simmons from Russell Simmons. So now Michael Conception on Kendrick Lamar, Top Dog. That's his nephew. So we got a lot of other guys that I'm bringing into the fold, and we bringing that don't really want to be seen. So that go back to the grassroots. And Michael Conception taught me that. He say, Melvin, look around me. And We had his estate. Kendrick Lamar don't gave him a plum colored Rolls Royce, and Mike say, "Mel, look at me. I got every money every day." And he say, "I'm mad at you." I said, "Why you mad at me, Mike?" He said, "You know, you could get whatever you want from me, and you never asked me for a dime. Why is that? Why is that?" Because when you're doing something from the heart, when you're doing it from the heart, I feed the homeless 3 times a day. Help numerous parents on legal work post, pre, trial. I'm doing murder cases, writs of habeas corpus, which costs $10,000 just to even start. Black ink plus white paper equal green money to me. That's when I was in the frog game, making $80,000, $90,000, $100 a week cash, if I wanted to right now. But I learned fast money ain't good money. Now I went and got a job at 65 only because my mama said on the show, "I want my son to go get a job so I can tell one of my friends for the first time in my life, my son went to work." So I went and got a job. In fact, the man that discovered before that discovered Nipsey was this Don Skorowski Critical Concept when we were doing the Who Killed Biggie Small Tupac special. And I was assigned to get $50,000 to offer Suge Knight because I was with I told Marvin and I could get to Suge. I was the only one through Marv. And Suge ended up getting 75,000. In fact, they took his girl to jail behind getting that money. If you remember, that was us. Then Keefy D with his crazy game, goofy ass. This led to his downfall. In fact, there's the Fox special, Tupac, Biggie Small, Ice-T, Saladin O'Brien, the journalist, are the hosts. So that go back to that. And we did that. So I'm losing my train of thought on that because that's how I get selective amnesia. Then it'll pop back. But at the end of the day, those numbers are right. Now let's talk about Trump and his National Guards going to Washington, D.C., where I stayed 5 years before the Secret Service run me out with Homeland Security, FBI agents. That's what's there. That's federal land, 12 square miles. That's why you put a NE, NW, SW, SE, which stand for Southeast, Southwest, Northwest, Northeast in Washington, D.C., because all the addresses are the same. And that's 12 square miles is cut into 4 corners with the same address. In fact, I was down there with the DC sniper when that was going on. So when Trump brings in the FBI, by the way, which made them stop looking for terrorists and those that are using guns, and made it mandatory that they do 30% of their hours on the streets with the National Guards, you can do that because that's federal land, those buildings. Like when they talked about the LA protests when I was there, and I'm going to keep it fair and swear, they wasn't protesting. They were looting, robbing, and everything else. And the only reason the National Guards were there because you have federal buildings there. And that's what they were protecting. So the LA protest was strategically placed and strategized to where they would attack Koreatown, others, and the whites. But nowhere where they were impoverished, Skid Row or nowhere, were no police there, nowhere. But the barricades were set up to protect whites. So at the end of the day, when you hear this propaganda about sending National Guards in, you know, there's a recipe for the presidency now, where as soon as that come up, first thing they talk about is terrorism, locking you up, and gun violence, and scaring you into making decisions which are otherwise false. When Democrats are in office, gun sales go up 200 million within 90 days, a statistic. If you don't win the state of Ohio, since we're going to talk a little bit about your right to vote, Ohio is a barometer when it comes to political playgrounds. They don't play, they make laws in Washington, they play in Columbus, Ohio. I work with Sean Stevenson of the Black Philly Mob, your credible messenger, Mr. Stop the Violence, who's also on this video, and also works out the Midwest with Jeff Fort, Larry Hoover, where we was just in Memphis on Martin Luther King Day with the mayor celebrating his day. And speaking of the mayor and social media, why is it I can hear blacks say fuck Martin Luther King and get paid for it? That's not cool. That's not cool. And that's the problem. Also, we have social media, which is allowing those to perpetrate images and stuff that they really aren't acting out. And everybody thinks that's an image. Well, somebody got to stand 10 toes down and step to their asses. I'm just sorry. Sometimes in war, lives have to be lost because you're threatening my life.
Mm-hmm.
When I walk out that house, I expect her to return, which all of us do. Nobody wants to get that caught. And let me tell you about a murder that happened when I was June 6, 12th, 1972. I just turned 15 in a day. Me, Michael Conception, Barefoot Pookie, Lavelle Fry, who would later kill again and go to death till 1977, and Douglas Green, which was the mayor of Inglewood, brother, Mayor Butts, who you see let him run so far and seen him laughing like a mule chewing on barbed wire with Snoop Dogg crip walking. But goddamn me, when I was 15 and you was a cadet on your rise, it was you that came to my cell after I don't got caught with a gun at a school and asked me who killed your brother when I was 15. When I tried to save them, where all of them are alive today. In fact, look up the Bloods, because one of them committed a murder in '75 and just died the other day. And rest in peace to Dirty Red, did 50 years in prison, was convicted of a murder in '75 when it only was 7 up. Oh, you probably know him, my man. And then caught the murder on Juneteenth in 1979, where he was found guilty of conspiracy, where a few white inmates were killed after they had attacked some blacks. Yeah, with the help of the police that gave them bats. You can Google that.
Yeah, we're losing your voice a little bit there. We can hear you, but very low, Melvin.
Can you hear me?
There we go. Yeah, we could hear you. It was just very, very low.
Hold on. Can you hear me now? Because I'm barely hearing you.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yep.
sir.
Yep.
So anyway, let's get back to this murder when I was 15. So this is where one side of the street is LA and the other side is Inglewood. They don't cross our side. And when we come to your side, we come. But if you come to our side, you might not make it back. So anyway, I knew him. I'm a #1 basketball player at this time. A lot of people don't know I was the one of the top ranked basketball players, 14, 15, 16, till they shot at me on the basketball court at 15. That also spiraled me after getting attacked playing baseball when we were young because we were saying that worrying on when they meet fighting these older cats at the park. So that went on. But anyway, so I knew him from playing basketball in Inglewood. And I say, man, you know they'll kill y'all here, man. Y'all ain't supposed to be over here, but I know y'all. This was Soul Train gang banging and pop locking going on. I say, but you can go down the Soul Train line. That's where they'll line up each side. You're gonna skip them one down. You might get beat by, but they ain't gonna kill you. I say, but let me go holler at them. I'm gonna come back. I came back in the room. I tell him, man, I got y'all a pass. Let's go. I can get you out, but you gotta leave now. I can't protect you too long.
Yeah, we're losing your
Three of
following
them
the Peacock
left,
title.
one of them stayed, and he got killed. That's the Mayor Inglewood brother. When I go to jail the next week, he come and ask me the murder hadn't been solved. I didn't even know who he was. He say, Melvin, you don't know me, but I need to ask you for closure about my brother. I say, who your brother? He say, Douglas Green. I say, what you want to know? He said, I want to know what happened. I say, what did you hear? He told me. I say, well, that's what happened. And that was the end of that. But it's ironic that you would support that instead of having us. And I called him on that and about gun violence. And then when I met him after 45 years, I seen him. I was with Althea Moses, the Olympic champ. We was doing something for an event in Inglewood, and I got the picture. I'll send it to you later. You can pin it. And the first thing I said to him after 40 some years, that's the only time we'd seen each other, was, do you remember? And he's a big guy, 6'5",
Hmm.
250, 260. But he looked in his eyes and my eyes, and he dropped his eyes solemnly and nodded. And I said, I thought so. And I walked away and we took a picture. So I could tell a million of these stories. Valerie Briscoe Hooks, the Olympic track star. My buddy killed her in the ninth grade. I can name a lot of names, but
I
I
want to,
wouldn't want to
speaking of that,
do
if I
that
may,
because that's in the past
and
and
we're
it
moving
would
in the
hurt
future. I can
people,
appreciate
our
that.
stories, how we could do it, because we have to respect it where people have changed their lives, their families
Yep.
might not know they
Yep.
past. So I'm mindful of that because I'm older than a lot of them and been there and done that. And it's just foresight, man, and it's the right thing to
No, of
do.
course, and I want to touch on something that you talked about there, in that, and all the information that you're sharing is great. But I think one thing that we could talk about, because you talked about basketball, you talked about baseball. Last week we had the pleasure of having on Dr. C.J. Taylor, first woman coach in Snoop's football league. We had Cornell coach Ward. For those of you that may or may not be familiar with both of these individuals, Coach Cornell Ward, lived a very, first 20 plus years of his life, very similar to what you're describing yourself here today, Melvin, with respect to running with Freeway Ricky Ross and, running the CIA, Iran Contra stuff going on with all the crack cocaine going on in the early, late 70s, early 80s as well. And talking about mentorships through sports, Dooney, I definitely want to throw this out to you with your experience in the monastery as well, because you helped, not only did you participate, but you helped run a lot of different sports programs in the monastery. That's something that you still do on a very regular basis as well, because at the end of the day, a gang is really just defined, the general dictionary term of a gang is just a group of individuals coming together in a common cause. So like, if we're going to choose a gang, why don't we choose one that's going to be healthy and not put us in these scenarios of gun violence, or where we can address mental health awareness in a positive light where you can grow from something. And so, Dooney, I'm curious to what your experiences in the monastery were when you were there, and what they have been with individuals finding, let's call it an outlet through sports and a healthy gang, as well. And just what your thoughts are on that. Put down the guns, pick up a bat, put down the guns, pick up a ball. Like why not? And I'm curious to what your insights are on that.
Like, well, for us, for my era, I'm a '70s baby, so I had uh older brothers to push me towards that way, and well, more or less, I can model myself after. You know what I mean? But our people, you are they 30 years old and say they don't play sports no more. So the kids don't have models like that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have the adult males pushing these kids towards sports. That's why they in the rooms and playing video games all day, because ain't nobody physically taking them out there getting active with them, bro. You know, uh, and it's very important, man. It teaches you a lot, bro. It teaches you what being a teammate really looks like, bro. It teaches you to play your role, man. You know, when you're part of a team, bro. When you're a part of something, your role is important. Stay in your role. You know what I mean? Because there's many different roles, man, to make this whole organism function, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, man, I think it's important, man, that we get back out and get these kids to playing sports. I try to anytime a youngster want to throw a ball, I never tell them no, bro.
It's a different way, and it's, you know, talking
Anytime
about what.
I have the opportunity to engage with one of them with sports, it has a lot to do with their self-esteem, their self-confidence, their self-worth, right? It's kind of like you help build that through sports and through that conversation, right? You help build confident young men through sports. They get to tap into their grown man, so to speak, too, when they play sports, right? They get to build that self confidence that they need where they don't need to carry a gun. They have that self assurance to where they don't need to carry a gun. Until our kids is confident in themselves, right? And what they're capable of, right? They're going to carry a gun because
because
that's their confidence.
because there is a better way, right? And it's definitely not guns, as you both have, you know, been discussing today, and we discuss every single week, right? And it kind of reminds me of, you know, what Melvin, you were talking about earlier, you know, the fast money, right? Like whether it's, and if you're not athletic, right, you could still get in something that's organized, that's gonna build your mind in a constructive way. And it kind of brings me back to, you know, being a kid myself and watching the original Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, the original opening credits, right? And you know, you got, or it maybe it was specifically in an episode, but Will Smith in one episode, his character talked about, you know, having to carry books in a pizza box, jokingly, you know, so he didn't get beat up by people, right? You know, while he was walking through the streets of Philly, you know, until they found that, or, you know, he said until they saw there was a pizza box and they wanted to jack me for my pizza box, right? So even from, if you're not an athletic standpoint, the smarts that we all have, right? Why isn't that pushed more like the sports are that you're talking about, Dooney? You know, or Melvin, you know, the fast money, yeah, it might be a long road to use your mind to get through high school and college outside of the trades, which that's a whole nother thing. Trades are being killed in this world, for sure. But talking about fast money, it's not really worth it. You said it, Melvin. I mean, you're going to end up, you know, essentially dead or in jail, essentially. But people want the fast money. You know, is there any insights, you know, to both of you? Because I certainly have some thoughts as well, you know, especially when it comes to like trades specifically. But any insights that you have, Melvin, as far as what do you see as the benefit of somebody taking that long road to not the fast money, you know, the money that can build, you know, investing in your time that can ultimately turn into long-term success and money? Anything that you want to share on that?
Well, can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
I can't see myself. I don't know what done happened. But uh to me, I just from everybody that I'm just saying from my experience that and I'm an introvert, so you're only gonna hear I, me, unless we, as in us doing something. So don't think it. I always use the plural I, but people will take it. It's very hard to understand my language because I'm an introvert. And before I get to that, speaking of introvert, I think when it comes to mental health, we need to test these young men that start off jail early. Juvenile hall is 3 areas: juvenile hall, schools, parks, and recreations. Education, parks, recreations, juvenile justice system. You already have a set audience, and I think those are some of the areas that need to be attacked as far as spreading awareness and bringing things uh, 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 together. Now back to the question, which was once again, what do I think about trades? I think about them and longevity. I think it's best. 98% of the people I grew up with that wasn't gang members, and it's a much more vast ratio than those that were taxpayers. Very few of them got retirement plans. Nobody get insurance. It's very hard to get health insurance. It's nothing you're gonna get as you get older, and they knowing that you're dying, they're gonna make it to where they're gonna help you. But all the people I know that we were calling swears, they're living a wonderful life. They own their homes or still have them or whatever. They got the benefits for what they work for whatever the government gives them. None of that comes with that. When you get killed, you got to have a GoFundMe, Fish Friday, Taco Tuesday, a car watch Sunday. But you won't take time out to go and get insurance. Where I work for an insurance company where you can get insurance for $10 a week to at least bury yourself and give your family something, since you want to play the game of Russian roulette in the streets. It make no sense. CENTS. Sense. It make no sense. It makes no sense. 98% of the guys I grew up with, if it costs a quarter to shit, they got to throw up. And when they get a piece of job, they hold on to it. But it's never too late. There's no such thing as it's over. You got to not look back. You got to treat it like you're turning to a pillar of salt if I look back. You can't, but you can't replace time. A lot of men go to jail, men, women, and children unjustly. And my man will say this. You'll hear a man say, I didn't get a fair trial. But you very seldom hear a man say, I didn't do it. Because there's no need to lie only to yourself when you're at a level 4 yard. We ain't going to want to. We know when you say that on a level 4, I didn't do it. Usually, he not. I've had a life sentence twice, where I was sentenced by man to die in prison. And each time, God let me out through that back door. And let me tell you about God. I've never read the Bible, and if it's nothing else you can get in prison, it's a Bible. And I've sat in many a shoe turns with nothing but a Bible, weed, or some tobacco. And I didn't open that Bible but to cut that paper to make some blunt wraps. So I also know that when I had that life sentence, I didn't say, oh, mama, oh, homeboy. All I said was, oh, God, give me one more chance. And here I sit today. Because you can't stop what God has ordained from you. It's called cheap talk. I'm not here to boast brag. I'm just here to make it to where you or anybody else, child or anybody else, don't go through what me and numerous men like me and him went through. Because it's very seldom I get to sit with somebody in my fraternity, a lifer. And we don't want you in our fraternity. But we can speak and tell you how to stay out of it. Am I right, my man?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I hear the word monastery because I played Scrabble 25 years of my 37 years. So I know not only the word. That's a big word, young man. They better understand that word and respect it. Monastery. That's godly.
And I told them some people were in prison. Still there.
Looking at. In fact, you're listening to righteous men that's trying to teach you and tell you the right way to go. And I say that he's Terry.
That's true. Dooney, what are your thoughts? Like, because you and I, you know what I'm capable of when it comes to trades. You and I talk about carpentry and stuff all the time. What do you think you can maybe offer as potentially a solution as to how we can maybe get back to trades, specifically in these communities that we're talking about, specifically in the scenarios where, again, we've talked about let's talk about it from a different angle. We talked about picking up a book, putting down a gun. We talked about putting down a gun, picking up a bat or a ball for sports. How about putting down a gun and picking up a hammer or a power tool or a ruler?
Bro,
What are your thoughts on how we might be able to do that to give people another avenue as opposed to picking up those guns or picking up gang violence and gun violence?
again, let me say, I'm a 70s baby. I was that school to prison pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
The only classes that we got A's in and that we attended was the trade classes, bro. The attendance was 100% in wood shop,
Yep.
in metal fab. You know what I mean? In automotive. It's by design they took them out of school, bro.
Mm-hmm.
It's by design they took them out of school. Why would we teach? Why would they want to teach our children to be entrepreneurs? Why would they want to teach us to be entrepreneurs? Because if I give you a skill, you don't have to work for anyone. You're now capable of creating your own enterprise, your own business. It was no coincidence why they took that out of school, bro.
Mm-hmm.
And what we have to do for our young men and for our community and young ladies in our community was create them trade schools in our community for our people, bro.
Yep.
Because putting it back in school will take a lot more effort because it's the reason why they took it out.
Because it comes back to that gatekeeping, right? Gatekeeping, and we've talked about this. It's ultimately holding back that knowledge that will push somebody forward or allow them the ability to get ahead in life. Well, if we're talking about the issue of systematic oppression and everything that comes with it, well, what's the easiest way that you can do it? You take away the knowledge of how somebody, especially in these communities that we're talking about, because it is a worldwide epidemic. But let's be real, it's no different than we were talking with Dr. CJ Taylor and how in the 60s, 70s, 80s, the conspiracies of the box train cars coming in with guns literally on them, right behind the likes of Watts High School in South Central. Like, and with conspiracies, while we're on it, right quick, people, there's truth to conspiracies because people just don't make this shit up out of thin air, right? There's some
Bro,
truth to it. There is some truth to it. But shout out
bro,
to Bump Jonas, who's on with us on Instagram. He's going to be our special guest tomorrow. Looking forward to that. Trades, man, like trades are such an easy way where you can go out and learn something, because if you learn a trade, you learn something for life.
but
Like
why would they want to help build our young men's self-esteem, self-confidence, and self-worth? Why would they want them to understand what's inside of them, bro?
that's a way to take
All
power
of this
away
is
from them.
by design, bro. We talked about sports. We had sports somewhere for youth to play sports, for us to play sports everywhere. I
Yep.
play sports everywhere in Sacramento. That's soccer, football, baseball, basketball, track, field. Bro, all them things are shut down, bro. Our kids don't have nothing to do. They took all that away, bro.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not bringing them back either, bro. That's also by design, bro. So what
Mm-hmm.
do our kids have left, bro? What do they have left, bro? We
They
have to
don't.
bring all those things back to the community. All of us that know, all of us, all of the OGs that's out there, all of the founders that's out there, right? Of all these different neighborhoods and all these different factions, we need them to come together, bro, all together, bro, and bring back to the community what we knew that we had as children, bro. We had it. We know what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't bring it back, it's gonna be lost, bro. That's why I was saying I need to speak with the OG because he has knowledge that I don't have. I'm not from the 60s. I want that knowledge that he has and what they started out there because Crippen started there,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's a hierarchy, right? And there's Crips over me. I'm okay with that. That's not an issue. I'm saying, where we going? I'm saying, where we going as Crips, bro? We have a responsibility, bro. That's what he's talking about. We grow up, we're wiser. We're supposed to make it better for our community, better for our people, bro. Better for these youngsters, better for your kids, better for your grandkids, better for your great-great-grandkids at this point, for some brothers, bro. We know what helped us. We know what we were interested in, and we know what was taken. So all we have to do is come together and replace it, bro. That's what we should be doing right now. Coming together to replace it and put it back out there for our youth, bro, to give them the best advantage possible, bro.
Agreed. Agreed. And I think to that point as well, since the shit's been taken away and is sadly not coming back, then to your point, you know, talking about the grassroots effort discussion that we were talking about earlier with Melvin, and hopefully we'll get him back in. Why can't we as the elders, why can't we as the adults in general, even if we don't got a uniform, why once a week or so can we not just go out there and get a 9-on-9 baseball game, softball game, 5-on-5, 3-on-3 basketball game, whatever the case might be? Like we have, it's a choice. It's a choice that we have to make as individuals. And it kind of goes back, you know, hand in hand with that 3.5% rule. Well, let's take those 3.5% of people in the community at the grassroots level and create our own leagues. You don't need a fucking uniform to create a league. All you need is people willing to go in day out, day in, or week out, week in, just to bring that community together. Most importantly, to bring the young kings and queens together, to let them know that you are a lot more alike than you actually believe. Let's go have some fun, because there's ways to be successful in life than picking up a gun or gang violence. And I got a quick question, you know, to ask you. Bump Jonas had a question on Instagram. You know, any thoughts that you got on, did gangs really start as hood defense, or was that ultimately a myth? And I've had this conversation with you as well, but your thoughts on that question to Bump Jonas. Again, people tap in tomorrow. Bump Jonas at the Sprinkle Some Salt podcast is going to be our special guest tomorrow. So thank you for that question, Bump.
I think every neighborhood had to speak for its own. But I think you know, like for me, right, I had older homies that I looked up to, right? And that I ran with, right? I got G homies, right? That's older than me, right? And cats was about taking care of the community, making sure that cats in this community don't get bullied, don't get punked. You know what I mean? And cats just came together as one and said, "Hey, bro, this is what we doing, bro." It was a brotherhood. A lot of us didn't have fathers, bro. You know what I mean? My big brother was Cepeda. My big brother was G-Man. You know what I mean? My big brother was Zoe. My big brother was Tone. I got big brothers. You know what I mean? And cats came together and said, "This is what it's gonna be." And this is the way to protect ourselves, bro. To protect. We didn't have fathers protecting us, bro. We was pups trying to, like, you know what I mean? Trying to protect everything around us, bro. So it was really family, bro. That's all I know. When it come to Crips, when it come to cripping and the gang thing, I only know family, bro. That's that what I grew up under. I can't speak on none of it, bro. No matter what, if they speak on me, I can't even speak back. That's why I tell you it's a loyalty in this. It's a brotherhood for me. It's deeper than homie. You understand what I'm saying? But it meant something. It's always gonna mean something. If it don't mean nothing to me now, that shit didn't mean nothing to me in the past, bro. If I don't hold on to everything that I live for, bro, and honor it, bro, none of this shit meant nothing, bro. It's still for something. It's still for family, right? Then there's certain things you just don't do to your brother, bro. And I honor that code, bro.
And that's
So
the
yeah,
thing that this world is lacking as a whole these days: honor and loyalty. Man, if we just had a little bit more of that in this world, how much better
bro,
would it be? Like,
that's
honestly.
what that's what made neighborhoods what they were. That honor and loyalty to each other, bro. That bond that nobody or nothing can break, bro. Feelings is breaking neighborhoods up now, bro. Breaking those bonds up, bro. But that's only if you forget the founding reason, bro. I never forget the founding reason because I spent my life representing this, bro.
And it's wild because I think, to what Melvin was speaking about earlier with respect to social media, and I think that foundationally we can agree a lot of what you see on social media and the internet is fake. It really, really is. And I wish, you know what I wish? And I'm curious to what your thoughts are on this. And it's wild for me to even say this because a lot of what I do, what we do collectively with our podcasting, a lot of what we do is social media, right? But like as a parent, you know, I have an 11-year-old daughter, which you know very, very well. We can limit her interactivity on the internet or her phone in general. I really wish, man, that there was a way where like our internet access could be limited. Because to that point, man, like no different than we were talking and Melvin was addressing from the standpoint of people want to come out here and literally get paid. He specifically had said, people, black people are out here getting paid to come out and say fuck Dr. Martin Luther King. Which,
Mm-hmm.
Listen, man, that think about that, people. Like somebody of any color coming out and
Bro,
saying something
they've
like that.
been
Like, come
getting
on.
our people to sell out against our people since the beginning of time, bro. That's just another form of it, bro. Is they doing it on media now, bro.
It's part of that design. It's part of
But
that
but
systematic design and oppression.
but the worst thing of that is we doing it to ourselves in our community, bro. We're doing it to ourselves in our community, bro. When we can be the strongest force moving on this earth if we move together. It's time, bro. Did you see what Trump said, bro? Trump said, bro, that the police officers can do whatever in the hell they want to you, and he sanctions it.
Hmm.
He's tired of people assaulting police, spitting on them, and disrespecting them, bro. He gave the police the right to murder you, bro, to beat you, to pommel you, bro, whenever they feel like it, bro. They already been doing it. So are we really focusing on each other and not focusing on what's really happening right now? So he's turned the police department on us, bro. And we worried about each other, bro. It's time we come together, bro, or perish, right? We gonna come together or perish, bro, as a people. It's bigger than us right now, bro. But they got us focusing on everything else, right? That's the reason why you have the baseball game. It's so people can mix and knowledge and wisdom can be shared that's not normally shared with those people because you're in a community, in a neighborhood, you're only gonna get what someone brings to that community and neighborhood, that information. So they're limited. But when you mix with other communities and other neighborhoods, you learn things that you wouldn't normally learn, bro. Like
Hmm.
what the fuck is really happening right now in this world, bro? Our young homies don't really see what the hell's really happening in this world right now because no one is giving them that information. If they actually seen our young life is really sharp, bro. If we really set them down and let them see what's happening right now with Trump and Hispanics and really explain that to them, bro, right? And that we can be next, bro. they will change their way of thought. They're soldiers already, bro. They're ready to go. But we need them to go for a cause.
Correct.
And the cause is for self-preservation of themselves and their children and our people. But we need to have that conversation, bro.
No, you're right.
That's why
It
we
comes
need
down to
to make
because it comes down to communication, right? That's what it comes down to. Like, it's crazy, man. Like, when I was talking, before last week's conversation, put the guns down, as I do every week. When we have the opportunities to, we get a conversation with our guests ahead of time, so they can get to know us a little bit. We can get to know them because we earn their trust to come in and have this conversation. And it was funny, bro, because I spoke with Cornell Ward. And for those of you that are not familiar with Cornell Ward, if you're familiar with the TV show Snowfall, the character Leon is pretty much said to be created out from Coach Cornell Ward. Again, he started out as a football star, got injured, ended up getting into the streets and drugs with Freeway Ricky Ross, which, late 70s, early 80s, was very heavily involved in the crack cocaine distribution in South Central LA. Ran with the CIA, Iran Contra, and it's crazy. And this individual is now, and for 40 years he's been out of the game. He's a coach, he's a mentor, he's a pastor, right? And he's maybe about 15 years, my senior, right? And I say all this to set the context for what we're talking about right now. Communication. And if you listen to somebody, get to know somebody. Because somebody would look at Cornell Coach Ward, the person that I described, and they would look at me, right? Just on the surface, okay? Just on the surface. What does this white dude have in common with this dude who was selling crack cocaine? Well, it's really funny because at the end of the day, after an hour-long conversation with Cornell Ward, there was a lot more in common between he and I than a lot of people that would just look on the surface and think. And it's wild. And I share that because we're talking about what Dooney said, communication, right? And, there's a divide and conquer, like, because this shit out here, it's Fruity Loops like Toucan Sam. Divide and conquer is their goal, my fam. And that's what it is. We are all human beings. Yes, we might have different upbringings or different cultures that we come from, but the root of, in my opinion, for what it's worth, people, the root of every fucked up thing that's going on in this world, it's culture wars. And I don't mean that just as a black and white thing or a black and Asian thing or, a Greek versus Turkish thing or Muslim versus Jewish thing versus collab. It's socialism. It's classism. Cultures of any kind, not just what the color of your skin is or what country you come from. From what we're talking about right now, what you were mentioning earlier, Dooney, it's divide and conquer, right? So they've done, whoever's running the ultimate strings, they've done a very good job of that to this point. And now that they see that they work it, because we can pit whites against blacks and blacks against Asians and Asians against these ones and this against this. Well, now what's the next level of that? It's like a subgenre of rap music, right? Getting into drill rap, getting into trap music. Well, okay, cool. How could we now systematically break down the culture of whether it be white people or black people or Asian people? Because it's been so well the way that they've orchestrated it. And that's what the fuck it is. It's an orchestration. It's a direction to break it down. But now to what you were talking about earlier, how can we break it down with even that one culture itself? Because we need more people to kill more people. We need more drugs getting into certain communities. We need more of this happening so we can, whether it's population control or just control or more money, it's usually about more money, people, because we said it at the top of this conversation and we say it regularly. War brings money. Prisons bring money. So like it's no different than any business. We talked about religion as a business.
Death brings money, bro. Like, I don't think our young life understand that. Like, when you murdered, bro, they makes lots of money off your dead body, bro. Right? The passes of your dead body it's going to the morgue, is it's going to the funeral home, right? It's going to the hospital. It's going through all these different hands. Then it's going to the coroners, and the coroners is taking whatever piece of you they want to take to study for science, right? Because they really want to understand who you are as a black man. If a black man understood and a young man understood the value of him as a human being, right? That they would think of themselves differently, right? But they're taking our body parts and using them for whatever they want to use them for, right? It's not that you just die and just gone, right? Your family is paying for that, right? We're all paying for that, right? When you die, right? Uh, and you're more valuable alive if you utilize yourself instead of going into their system, which is death, right? And every time you die, right, a nation dies, right? They need to understand the value of their life, bro. And the mass media, right, is not gonna put that out there, bro. Why, again, I say, why would they tell our young men that they're loved, that they are somebody, that they are important? Why would they tell our young men that? It takes us to tell our young men that you are important, that you're valued, that you are somebody, bro, that you're a king, right? Act like it, right? Value your life like that. Why would they tell them that, bro? Why? When they spent their whole lives teaching them that there weren't those things, bro.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of us that call ourselves OGs or the older generation that has to give this back to our young men. And it's not in the gun. Your value is not in who you kill. Your value is how you live and what you do and give back while you live it. It's not about the lives you take, bro.
And
You can
you're
continue to change and make new things and grow and prosper when you create positive, but when you kill, it's over. It's done. It's not a win. So it can't be what it's for us.
very true. And you said it right there, the money that comes with death. I mean, think about it. Why do we get a social security number when we're born? Because we're all just a number. Like you're telling me that you need to give me a number to find out who I am or where I, like, come on, man. It starts from birth. You are being broken down by the system from birth.
By labeling you black on your birth certificate. Am I black, bro? Look at
You're a
me. Am
human.
I black?
You're a human being, bro. That's
You
what
know what I'm
you are.
saying? Am I black? Is my skin black or is my
Mm-mm.
hair black?
The labels. That's where the label comes. You got to label something to break it down, because you got
Right?
to label something, right? In order to say we need to go against this, or this just isn't
It
right.
starts from birth.
If you don't have a label, or if it's too broad or general, well, how can you pit something against something? Think about it from, we talked sports earlier, right? Man, fandom within sports is ridiculous. Look at, one of the biggest baseball rivalries, Yankees versus Red Sox. That, and it's crazy because some people just think of it as a sport. Yo, listen, I grew up in Bridgeport, Connecticut, right on the line of where you can be a Yankee fan or a Met fan and a Red Sox fan. Okay. I lived there until I was 30 years old. I've been into Yankee Stadium. I've literally I've witnessed grown adults throwing a hot dog at a fucking child. I'm talking like 6 years old, because the drunk, stupid fucking person being a Yankee fan thought it would be cool to throw a fucking hot dog at a 6-year-old Red Sox fan who's sitting there with their father. Think about it. Labels. Why can't it just be the baseball? Like, you give power to a label, you give power to somebody to go against that. And then if you can control the narrative enough, well, now you give it more strength. And then that's no different. And then, being black, being white, being Asian, because then what comes with that? All the derogatory remarks or names that you can now give these individuals as well. So now we escalate it and we make it okay in some cultures to call people certain derogatory remarks. It's labels, man. It's no different than we were talking with Stefan last week about religion.
Told you, labels, bro. Labels, bro, and only people who's really label. You only label really negative things, bro. Everything else just is.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I understand fully what the Hispanics is going through right now, right? Because before they was attacking the immigrants, they was attacking the niggers, bro,
Yep.
and always have. You understand
It's
what I'm saying? So
it's a sad system out
it's
here.
imperative that our people wake up and understand what's happening right now and around them because they don't see it, bro.
No, you're
For
you're
me to
absolutely
love
right.
my people is to enlighten them with what's happening around them so they can better be prepared for what it is to come, the inevitable.
You're right. And it starts with being aware. You said you got to wake up, right? Whether you want to use the word woke or aware or cognizant, whatever word, you just have to be aware as a human being of what it is actually going on around you. And most important, through enlightenment, like Dooney said, and communication, like Dooney said. Um, if you can just open your mind and communicate things that you will actually learn or be aware of or be woke of or be cognizant of, they're really limitless. And speaking back, and we're going to start to wind down here, so we'll start to tie up things from what we addressed today. The 3.5% rule, like all you got to do is get 3.5% of a population together that has the right belief system of supporting other human beings, no matter who they are, where they come from, or what they're about, as long as they're about just goodness. Because you said it on this show, brother. Listen, the only two labels that we need to be worried about as a human race is good and evil. Anything beyond that, it's just a narrative that somebody is trying to push for their agenda. And I'll tell you, if somebody's telling you something other than good versus evil, there is not a pure intent of the agenda that they have behind that. And why can I say that? Well, we talked about labels a few moments ago. They have to give something a label in order to push that impure agenda and narrative for which they are looking to push. And you have to brand something. How do you brand something? You give it a name, you give it a brand. Just no different than we were talking Yankees versus Red Sox, where somebody can throw a fucking hot dog at a 6-year-old and think that's okay. Come on, man. Like, I don't know. So what are your thoughts on just anything beyond doing a simple good versus evil label? Like, what
I
are we
don't
doing
know.
otherwise?
Like I always say, we got disconnected from God, bro. Our young life, because we are. It started again in the early '80s. Like I said, we stopped going to church, and to me, getting older, I'm understanding the church is within you because God is in you. He created you. That is our Father. So I think we got to get back connected with that,
Mm-hmm.
and get our young life back to connected with that, so they can understand that that they were created for a purpose, bro, and it wasn't to be murdered in the street, bro, or spent in their modern day slave camp, which is the prison system, where they can go build chairs and clothes, and so they can be sold in Kmart and these other places that they sell all these different clothes that we make while you're in prison,
Yep. So true.
right?
So true, man. So true.
Um, I I just think I owe my young life truth, and that's all I got for you. My older brothers, I owe them the truth, and that's all I got for them too, bro. Right? It's time that we start having some real live conversation about some real live shit that's happening right now that our people can't see. Because the reason why our people are asleep is because they're not hearing, right, the information that they need to hear. They're hearing what they're hearing, and that's all they're hearing. Our people, I believe in our people. I
And all
believe in our people, which means I believe in the good of man. And that's good if we come together for our shadow anything that's of the dark and that's of the devil.
absolutely right. Because at the end of the day, it is simply good versus evil. It only takes, we learned, 3.5% of the population to come together with a belief in that good to push the pure and proper agenda of bringing back together the human race. People, the human race. Because the goal is just to divide and conquer. That way, whoever's the puppeteers of this shit um, can get what they want out of it. And Dooney, I'm going to let you get some final thoughts in here, but before I do, we just on the whole put the guns down, we outside movement. We want to remind you to go stream this film today. Tell people about it. Put the guns down. A World Epidemic. It is currently streaming on Amazon Prime Video, Google TV, and Apple TV. Watch it with the family, watch it with the young ones. There's a lot of information in there. It's a very important thing that you need to go watch. If y'all could take yourselves to the movies on a regular basis and spend $8 at a bare minimum per ticket, well, you can spend $4 or less in some cases on a movie that can be streamed right in your own home or right on your phone. At the end of the day, that's simply what it's about. We want to thank our special guest today, again, founding member of the A-Tray Gangsta Crips out of South Central LA. Melvin Farmer got his first job at 65. His paying first real job, if you will. Because obviously, we know if you know enough people, like, what comes with, gangs and gang violence and gun violence. So we appreciate all of his stories, his insights, his thoughts. He's also an activist. So yeah, you can, just like my brother Dooney sitting right here, you can have a redemption story. You can do things to better your life from what you were conditioned or only knew at some time growing up in the system that is built to keep people down or tell them that there is only one way to do things, and that's through gun violence and not addressing mental health awareness. And that's exactly what these Saturday morning conversations are simply about. So if you tapped in with us, as soon as this conversation is done, it is going to be live or available, excuse me. Yeah, I guess you could call it live. It will be live to you on our We Outside Live podcast channel on YouTube. There's a lot up there. This is probably now the 7th specific episode that we had on this conversation. And we're going to keep having them every single Saturday. And Dooney, I appreciate you and your insights and your thoughts every single morning that we have these conversations. Tomorrow, again, big shout out to Bump Jonas with the Sprinkle Some Salt podcast. He's going to be the special guest on the We Outside live cast. So just a reminder for you all tapping in too. With that said, Dooney, any final thoughts that you want to share on today's conversation that we had with the king, Melvin Farmer?
Man, it was an honor. It was an honor to meet him, bro. I met a brother, like I said, Legs Diamond, that came up under him, bro. And that brother has never misled me. He from A Trade, uh, and never misled me, bro. And I was a young pup coming up in that system, bro, in B facility, bro. Uh, he ain't never gave me negative advice, bro. Always made sure that I stayed straight, bro. And it's because of what he started, right, with A Trade, that A Trade gangster, right, touched my life in the way he did, bro. So uh I honor him for being who he is, bro. And I look forward to us coming together, bro, because we need to connect these freeways and highways together, bro. So LA can know they're not alone. So Sacramento can know they're not alone. So the Bay can know they're not alone. Everybody needs to know that they're not alone. And we need to start coming together so these people can see that we're not alone.
Man, well
And we
said.
don't stand alone. You know what I'm saying? I'm tired of all that. We stand alone. You stand alone, you lose. Period. You stand alone, you lose. You understand what I'm saying? So yeah, I just think we just need to start having conversations with our young life, like about what gun violence really means and what it really looks like. Because I feel like if I'm gonna tell you to use a gun, I should tell you, okay, now you may do at minimum 20, 30, 40 years of your life on that plantation, young man, when you make this choice to use this gun, right? Also, when I tell you, when you use that gun, you murder your relationship with your mother, your family, your community, and every friend you thought you had, right? And then you subject yourself to that penal system, which is the slave system, right? And nothing of it is good. And so when someone tells you to use that gun and then tell you that you should do something with it, you ask them, do they want to go through all that and forfeit their liberty and their freedom to live, right? When they ask you that choice, and if they're not willing to sacrifice that themselves, bro, huh, let me tell you something.
Says it all right there.
There's nothing that love you will have you sacrifice your liberty, because when it's right, your gut gonna tell you to sacrifice your liberty and protect your life or your liberty. Your gut, your first mind is gonna tell you. And so when your first mind tell you, when someone tells you something to do something, you listen to this as well. You listen to that first brain. Your first brain say, nah, that don't sound right. If it don't feel right, it ain't right. Start listening to your first brain. Stop listening to man, because man will run your ass into the brick wall while they still be alive and it still be free, while your ass is in jail or you in a coffin. Period. Use your first brain, young life. Not this one. This one right here is going to tell you. That's what I have to say to my young life today.
I
Think with your
appreciate that.
first brain. That's not from man. It's from your gut. It's from that God in you, King.
Ladies and gentlemen, there ain't nothing else to say other than that. My brother, I appreciate you. I appreciate your time this morning. Let's hop on a call today at some point. Let me know what your schedule's like. We're going to see each other, obviously, tomorrow with our Bump Jonas conversation as well. But everybody, we appreciate you opening that door and tapping in with us again. There's 18 months of these conversations loaded up on the live cast YouTube channel. Go check that out. Please subscribe and hit that bell. That way you don't miss. Most importantly, like if you're going to ever tap into a show with us, tap into the one on Saturday mornings. We appreciate everybody that taps in on Wednesdays and Sundays. Please don't get me wrong there. But this Saturday morning show is about changing the narrative, changing lives and saving lives and addressing mental health awareness. So we appreciate you all for tapping in with us. My brother Dooney, appreciate you, King. Nothing but love and respect. Always,
Always.
always, bro. I will be talking to you